My name is Kiosha Varela. I am the digital producer here at the Aspen Institute, and we are here with Uzo, who is based in Nigeria, who is an award-winning author and writer. And I will go ahead and let you further introduce yourself, Uzo, but we are here to talk about Boko Haram.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Uzodinma Iweala. I'm a writer and also the editor of Ventures Africa, which is a business publication based here out of Lagos.
Great. All right, so welcome. We're glad to have you here, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. I know you're on the ground in Nigeria right now. So the first question that I have for you is the Boko Haram's attack about a month ago in terms of the 200 abductions of the female students came at the same time as the World Economic Forum was meeting in Abuja. Do you think that timing was intentional?
And I think the answer is yes. I think what Boko Haram is trying to do is really strike fear into the hearts of Nigerians. And I think by timing the attacks very close to the World Economic Forum, I think they were trying to say is that no matter what progress Nigeria makes, we're going to try and hold you back. But I think Nigerians have answered that, we're not going to be held back by terrorism. We're not going to be held back by a bunch of people who can't see the future of this country in the same way that the majority of us can.
Where did Boko Haram emerge from, and how has the group recruited its membership?
So Boko Haram has mainly been centered in that northeastern part of Nigeria, Borno State, Yobe State, Adamawa State. That's generally been their stronghold. They're an organization that has been around for a while, but they haven't been violent until, I guess, the last few years. Really, we started seeing an uptick in violence, in the mid-2000s, probably the later half of the aughts. And I think that they recruit, basically there are two ways they recruit. One, it's the proselytizing that happens, but at the same time, I think, as people have rightly pointed out, that there is an issue with extreme poverty in that area and people who feel hopeless. And I think whenever you have that, you do have people who will take advantage of that and try to convince people to do things, to commit terrorist acts. That said, I think it's also important to note that not everybody in that part of the country is part of Boko Haram. That this is really a splinter group. It's a separatist group that has really got a mission to take Nigeria down.
My third question, why did Boko Haram target girls? And what was its goal in doing that? Was it extortion? Was it trafficking?
I think the group, which has been steadily escalating the kinds of its attacks that it has been making on Nigerian citizens and the Nigerian state, I think they were going for shock value. And I think that's really what this is about. Let's find people who are innocent and see what we can do to get the attention of the country and of the world. Now, I think it's important to note that this is not the first time that Boko Haram has attacked children. They have attacked children before. It's actually been sort of part of their modus operandi. If you go back through, you'll see that there have been a number of instances in which they've attacked schools, boarding schools, non-Islamic schools in the north. I think that's just an atrocity. I think this time, the timing close to the World Economic Forum, when all eyes were on Nigeria, added to the reason for why they attacked the girls in Chibok. Now, I also think that there was probably a miscalculation on their part because I don't think they expected the world to wake up the way it did to the attack that they made. And that is an incredible thing. I think the support that the girls have gotten, the support that Nigeria has gotten from the international community is incredibly meaningful. We've been dealing with this threat for a very long time. And it's clear that the threat is not just a domestic one. It's majority domestic, and there are a whole bunch of forces at play. But I think the fact that these guys are pretty well organized suggests that we also need to organize and get the help of the international community to take care of what's going on here.
The U.S. Senate introduced the International Violence Against Women Act last week, which would require aid directed to prevent violence against women around the globe. Can U.S. measures such as these assist you in Nigeria? Would they really have an impact?
I think that bills like what was passed in the Senate, I think those things are incredibly important. They make a statement. I think that any aid that goes against violence against women, anything that helps to combat that, which is a global problem, it's not just a Nigerian one, I think it is helpful and necessary. I mean, I think, one, people need to be aware of just how violence against women occurs in different areas of this world. And it's not always the same. I mean, it could be, in our case, we have a bunch of people who are targeting young women to make a political statement. That's happened in other places. It could be that, it could be things that are not so specific as this, but I think it's important, right, that we all wake up and take a stand. And I think that the U.S. government's statements and stance on this has been extremely helpful in terms of bringing attention to the issue and also galvanizing people to act.
And actually, one follow-up question to that, you mentioned galvanizing people to act. There's a lot of social media happening in terms of conversations around what's happened to the 200 abducted girls. I mean, what can everyday people in and out of Nigeria do to address this issue?
I think that the social media campaign that has started is an incredibly important one. I mean, think about this before. Boko Haram has been operating, and the world hasn't really taken notice. And now the world is very aware. Now you see that the number of news stories on Boko Haram has increased quite dramatically. Whereas before, bombs would go off, schools would be attacked, people would die, and no one really paid attention. I think the next step, of course, as we all know, that social media is a powerful tool, but in and of itself, maybe is not necessarily the most impactful thing. It gets people aware, but doesn't necessarily move bodies on the ground. That's questionable. So I think what it is, it's about, one, even after you've seen the hashtags, after you've followed what's trending, is I think trying to develop a deeper understanding of the environment and the context in which this Boko Haram is operating, and the Nigerian context in general. I think what can be dangerous is that people don't really understand what's happening and start repeating sort of half-truths or incomplete information gets passed along. You don't really understand what we're going through. Now, I'll just say a little bit more, which is that I think Nigeria is a country in a period of transition. We are a young democracy. We are a set of people still really learning how to be a democracy and how to work with each other. All countries really take time to perfect the democratic system, and each democratic system is characteristic of that country and its people, the people who agree to be part of that social compact. Now, that takes a while, and that often comes with a lot of turmoil, and I think we need to be aware that that's going to happen, that we're going to have to struggle through this for a long time, long after the hashtags have vanished. Second, in terms of on the ground, I think people are very aware here. People are standing up for our young women. People are standing up for our young children. People are standing up for our security in this country on the ground. And I think supporting those efforts, as in just, again, educating yourself first and foremost if you're outside. And then if you're here, I think a lot of people have been protesting. A lot of people have been writing. A lot of people have been putting pressure on the government to make sure that things get done and that these girls get brought home and that these attacks are tackled with the seriousness that they need to tackle them. And that's good. That shows that the democracy that we have, however imperfect, however flawed, is wrong, right? It's taking shape. Like, there's a conversation that's happening, and that's important for us. The last thing I would just like to point out is that, that things can seem very, very crazy here, and they like, this is not necessarily a good period for Nigeria, but at the same time, Nigeria has been through trouble before, right? And I think Nigeria and Nigerians are committed to growing this country and growing this nation. So I think there can be a lot of hyperbole, with talk about the whole country falling apart, that Nigeria will never make it, that things won't get past the elections in 2015. But I think it's important to note that, again, what I said before, we are a growing democracy. We are going to have our struggles and we're going to have our troubles, but I think the country is much, much, much stronger than a group of separatists who are willing to commit atrocities to prove whatever point it is that they think they need to prove, which, to be honest with you, no one really knows because they can't articulate that. Nigeria will be here, and I think Nigerians are committed to the idea of this country being here, however much trouble we have to go through to make it happen.